Leadership strategy and tactics. First of all, what is a field manual? Why put out that type of book? And how do I use that book differently than, say, Extreme Ownership and Dichotomy?
So field manual in the military is a simple, straightforward, step-by-step instruction on how to do something. That's what it is. It's meant to take someone that hasn't done something before. You open up a field manual on how to strip an M14. You open up that field manual, it's going to tell you how to do it step by step. So the idea of writing field manuals in the civilian sector was that exact thing. So the first one that I wrote, Discipline Equals Freedom Field Manual, people ask me over and over again, how do you overcome, it's the same thing you asked me, right? How do you overcome fear? How do you get through times when you don't feel like doing something? How do you overcome when you lose somebody? What do you do all these questions I get asked over and over again. And I said, you know what? I can make a field manual for this because I know what I do. And then they'd also ask me, hey, what do you work at? What's your workout? What do you eat? What's your diet like? What do you do? What should you do for self-defense? What should you do for martial arts training? What should you do for firearms training? Ask me all these questions all the time. And so I said, you know, I'm just going to make a field manual of what to do, of how to move down these different paths. And then with the leadership strategy and tactics field manual, once again, going around all the time, working with all kinds of companies, leaders at every level, I get asked the same questions a lot. And the same thing with my podcast. You know, I answer a lot of leadership questions on my podcast. And I realized there was a gap between these principles of how to lead and how to actually apply them. What strategies and what tactics do you use to actually implement extreme ownership, to actually implement dealing with other people from a leadership perspective? And as I had to answer those questions all the time, eventually I just said, you know what? I'm just going to take these most common questions that everybody runs into and answer them and put them in a field manual, step by step, highly indexed, so people can open it up, look it up, and find an answer to their leadership problem, find out the actual words they should use to communicate to their boss, to their subordinate, actual ways to de-escalate situations, actual ways to properly explain or improve the morale of their team. Everything that you want to do as a leader, tactically on the ground, every strategy you want to use, I put it in there so that people can open it up, find the solution, and go execute.
Yeah, it's like real bite-sized moments. Like, yeah, you know, take ownership of your failures and mistakes, have integrity, be balanced, be decisive, build relationships. And it finishes off with some great things. It's all on you, but not about you. I mean, you could think about that one for a few years. Never make an ultimatum you can't keep. There must be a story behind that.
These things all have stories behind them. You know, they all have stories behind them. These are all things that I had the blessing of being in, either being led or leading for 20 years in very harsh environments. And I worked for good leaders and I worked for horrible leaders. And so everything that's in there are things that I actually learned from experience. I actually, you know, had people put ultimatums on me. I put ultimatums on people. There's all these things have happened. And that's why I think it's a very pragmatic book of how you handle these situations.